Megan Knab, why all Web3 businesses should be DAOs.
Okay. Woo! All right, kicking it off. Okay, hey everybody walking in. Welcome to DAOFest and Sustain Web3. I'm Megan, and I run a company called Veriledger. We build crypto accounting software for businesses. I have worked with a couple of different DAOs over the past year, DORG, Marketing DAO, Orochi V1, and OneHive, so across a bunch of different kinds of protocols, and just wanted to share with you some quick thoughts on why I think all Web3 would benefit from using DAOs as part of their business operations. So like yesterday, it's too loud. Oh, louder, okay. Yesterday at the Meta Cartel demo day, Deacon had a really good visualization of how traditional companies differ from DAOs. But my sort of high-level takeaways are, DAOs and like traditional corporations are sort of different flip sides of the same coin. Where in normal companies you have top-down decision-making, hierarchical structures. Compensation of employees depends on upward mobility, and usually, especially for software engineers, it means moving out of coding and into management, and also lots of information asymmetry. DAOs obviously are different, like implicitly. Decision-making power, lies with what you put into the DAO, whether it's in terms of money or in terms of sweat equity. Compensation is subject to voting, and information is generally on-chain, especially financial information. So there are fewer information asymmetries. I went to business school a few years ago, and I don't know if anybody else has a similar vibe from going to business school, but they sort of just teach you about like whatever the current trends are in corporations. So some of the takeaways that I've learned from my short time going for my MBA is sort of like hot topics, like this issue of cultural misfits was like what you would learn in terms of like hiring, where you want to bring in people who are disruptive to your organization. From a cultural perspective, because they help enhance innovation and problem solving. But Harvard Business School shows that cultural misfits actually don't have good tenures at businesses, at large corporations. They don't make as much money and they stay for shorter periods of times. So even though companies benefit from having people like that involved, the people that are contributing don't get as much benefit. So DAOs are obviously the flip side of that. Most of us in the DAO sphere are sort of cultural misfits. And there's also just a greater sort of ability for different kinds of people to join in companies. Also, the Spiral framework was this very sort of in vogue sort of business school type study. It was created in the early 2000s. And it was a way that for corporations to implement pockets of democracy within their companies so that they give the illusion that their workers have the ability to have a say in what's going on in terms of product development, in terms of corporate culture development. It's been applied at companies like Whole Foods fairly successfully, but it's not true democratic governance of companies. And DAOs, obviously, this is an implicit thing that exists within the DAO framework. The other thing, in terms of impact to businesses, is corporate social responsibility. DAOs, I don't know that there's a good sort of translation for DAOs in terms of corporate social responsibility, but maybe it's implicit in the products that you guys are building. So 2019 has seen a lot of innovation in terms of the Web3 environment across a bunch of different verticals, like decentralized finance, maybe being the biggest, marketplaces, NFTs, collectibles, but there hasn't been nearly as much innovation in the companies that you guys are building to actually build out these products. And so that's what I would like to see in 2020. And it does make sense. DAOs, Moloch V1 was launched here at ETHDenver last year. So it was very much an experimental technology, but what I'm hoping to show you guys is how I think that it's proven that it works and can be applied in a variety of different manners in different verticals across companies in this environment, in the Web3 environment. One of the companies that I work with is DORG, and wanted to share with you guys a case study of not only why using a DAO to help run your business fits with the ethos of Web3, but also just makes business sense on the bottom line. So if you guys don't already know, quick summary about DORG. They're a developer shop. They were incorporated as a BV LLC in Vermont last year. They've been in operation for almost a year, a little less than a year. A bunch of the team is sitting right over here. And they utilize a DAO stack framework, and I do their accounting. Quick overview, just like some key stats of how they performed. Their first year, they had 10 clients contributing to revenue streams, with one client providing just over half of their revenue stream, which is actually not that bad for a dev shop that provides very specialized technology. And as their year sort of progressed, you saw that their revenue streams diversified as time went on, and we expect to see that trend continue in 2020. From a compensation perspective, they paid 17 contractors. They started off with a core team of a few of them that really launched the company and then brought more people into their sphere as they went on. So you can see that the company has like a somewhat decentralized sort of like picture of how it's managed, and this compensation translates directly to their voting power in the DAO. So we also expect to see that as 2020 progresses, the voting power decentralizes further. So now, I think in November or December, the core contributors, the earliest contributors to the DAO no longer had 2/3 voting power, which was a big hallmark for their company. And it's just pretty cool in general. Okay, this is like the part that I think is exciting, their financial overview. They were able to distribute pretty much all of the revenue that they generated back down to their workers, which is something that normal companies just do not do. They have high overhead. It's generally fairly expensive to operate a business. But Deorg figured out a way, like most of the revenue that they generated went back to pay for like the actual client work. Some of the revenue that they distributed to their members was administrative time. Their administrative time sort of expense is much lower than you would see in like normal companies, especially in startups. Professional services accounted for like a very small percentage. They were like very tactful in like how they incorporated and how they operated. But the really exciting part, and like maybe the key point to what I'm talking about, is actually that like little yellow line. It represents $24, which is their gas costs in 2019. So that represents hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of value, over 350 transactions, and it's for the entire year of operation, it cost them less than it would for a monthly subscription to a payment service. So it 100% makes financial sense to be, from a back-end perspective, to be operating a DAO framework, for, at least in expense management. Something that people who are like less, comfortable with when talking about blockchains and cryptocurrency, and especially DAOs, is, oh, it's like you're using cryptocurrency, isn't it like super volatile and you're going to lose all your money, potentially. So did an analysis on the exchange rate for Deorg that they, what they gained or lost in moving their assets into dollars. And on average, they had an FX exchange loss of $7, which is actually really not that bad when you think about the cost of capital for using ACH or wire transfers. And when you adjust for their stablecoin activity, which is actually most of their financial activity, the cost of capital is less than $1. So very good on the foreign exchange metric as well in 2019. So we think it makes financial sense to use DAOs from a back-end perspective. So does it make sense for their customers too? Is it too difficult for their clients to be outsourcing their development work to a DAO? And we ran a survey from a couple of their clients, and we found, no, their clients are pretty happy. They did good work. And working with a DAO as an outsourced entity actually wasn't a big deal for them. So one of the takeaways that I think is, as we sort of look to mature Web3 corporations and businesses, there's lots of venture capital money pouring into this atmosphere. We should think about how we can be taking the Web3 values and folding them into our businesses. You don't have to be a DAO entirely. You can use a DAO as a tool. And the most apt use cases, I think, are for contract approvals, voting on making sure that you're happy with contractors that you're bringing in, with legal agreements, approving client engagements. You can use it for financial management, even if you're not totally denominated in cryptocurrency. For us to reconcile their 2019 books, because all of their financial data was on-chain, we were able to automatically reconcile about 83% off the bat, which cuts back a ton on your accounting costs, your auditing costs. That's a pretty big deal. And also using it as a cap table just to show who has equity in your company. So just DAO it. Yay.